sellers and there are aggressive buyers at that price. So this is again the futures contract. So at price 60.83, there were more market participants hitting the bid than the ask. This is what we mean by more aggressive sellers than there are aggressive buyers. Now this is very, very important, right? But for now, for basic knowledge, I want traders to really understand how to read every candle, right? So when we look at candles on the surface, right, if we were to zoom out at this, when we look at candles at the surface, a quick tip I want traders to understand is that when we come into an inefficiency or a fair value gap, right? So if I just change the screen over here, when we come into a fair value gap, we never really know who is in control in the market just by looking at candles, right? So if I were to draw, we see a fair value gap over here, very, very clear ICT fair value gap, right? So if this is a key level because it's a fair value gap, and we're going to be going into key levels in the next kind of session in a lot of detail. But what happened over here is super, super interesting, right? So when price comes into a key level, in this case, it is a potential selling level because we had a fair value gap over here. As price came into this level, we want to be reading what's happening with the orders, right? We want to be reading what's happening over here, but more specifically over here, right? So again, this is the 15-minute time frame. If we go down to the 5-minute time frame, we can really begin to dissect what was going on between the buyers and the sellers. So just for basic knowledge, think about this, everyone. I want people to think about this. Now, we see majority blue delta, right? And we're coming into a bearish fair value gap. Remember, this blue box you see over here is a key level. It is a bearish fair value gap, right? So on the surface, you don't really know just by looking at candles who's in control, right? These candles, we see big wicks over here. We see a massive impulse. We see a massive down pulse. We see a massive V shape, right? So we don't know whether to take it long or short from this point. We don't know what's going on. We don't know if this is a true fair value gap over here. We don't know if it's going to hold or not, right? So the way we can actually determine this in real time is by reading the order flow, right? So these numbers print in real time. So you can see exactly how many aggressive buyers and how many aggressive sellers there are. And that's the beauty of order flow, because we can actually see what's going on behind the candles as opposed to blindly trading off any fair value gap. So if we again go to settings and we move this over to the right, we go to cluster settings, what we can see from the last session is we can see the bid and the ask, and the market is an auction. So let's start with the bid and the ask. If we look over here, right, let's start with this candle. If we look over here, this is 0 by 60. So what that means from an order flow perspective is that there's no market participants hitting the bid. There's only market participants hitting the ask, right? So for those who remember from the previous session, we called this a finished auction, right? So this was a finished auction. So if we move on, the volume, which we're going to come on to, right? A finished auction was when there's a 0 on one side. A 0 on one side means there's no aggressive